The National Motor Freight Traffic Association is making changes to the way it assigns LTL freight classes as a part of the organization's initiative to simplify the National Motor Freight Classification. When making classifications, the NMFTA will continue to evaluate commodities based on the 4 transportation characteristics and packaging. When a commodity is evaluated and no known handling, stowability, or liability concerns are present, classes will be assigned using a standard density scale. When a commodity is evaluated and handling, stowability, or liability concerns are identified, classes will be assigned based on the commodity's unique characteristics. During this process, the NMFTA will also remove legacy terms used within commodity descriptions, making it easier to determine the freight class for a given product. Docket 2025-1 will focus on standardizing the class assignments for commodities identified as having no known handling, stowability, or liability concerns. This includes all current NMFC items with commodity descriptions that reference an 11 sub-density scale. It also includes all current NMFC items with commodity descriptions that reference a modified density scale and have no handling, stowability, or liability concerns. Current NMFC items listed within generic headings with no known handling, stowability, or liability concerns would be consolidated within the generic heading and reference a standard density scale. Current NMFC items with class assignments based on additional handling, stowability, or liability concerns would be marked with a new symbol to identify the additional considerations given to the specific commodity. It is important to understand that not all NMFC items will be changing on Docket 2025-1. A list of NMFC items that are in scope and remain in consideration for Docket 2025-1 is available on the NMFTA website for download and review. While this list does not constitute an official docket, it is being provided so interested parties can analyze how the proposed changes may affect them once the 2025-1 docket goes into effect. Currently, 40% of all NMFC items are within the scope of proposed class changes. As the classification staff prepares the docket, we will continue to provide updates on where we are at in the process until the actual docket is released to the public on January 30, 2025. Items that are marked out of scope have been reviewed by the NMFTA and will not appear on Docket 2025-1. There will be no proposed changes to the classes assigned to those items on Docket 2025-1. To understand how the classification is being simplified on Docket 2025-1, it is helpful to understand how classes are currently assigned in the NMFC when density is the primary transportation characteristic. This example includes 3 separate item descriptions, each grouped within the same generic heading, named the dental, hospital, medical, or surgical supply group. The first item was assigned a single class 200 based on an average density of those shipments at the time the classification was created. The second item references a modified density scale with 4 density ranges and classes assigned to it, while the third item references an 11 sub-density scale. On Docket 2025-1, the bulk of the proposed changes will occur within generic headings, where separate NMFC items referencing commodities with no known handling, stowability, or liability concerns would be combined into one item. The search terms and minimum packaging requirements from the specific items would be retained in the consolidated item, and classes would be determined using a 13 sub-density scale. Here is an example of the standard density scale that will be used in the assignment of classes for commodities evaluated as having no known handling, stowability, or liability concerns starting on Docket 2025-1. It is an expansion of the existing 11 sub-density progression, adding class 55 and 50. The 13 sub-density scale is not broadly applicable on all commodities, only those classified under NMFC item descriptions that specifically reference it. Current NMFC items that have classes assigned to them based on handling, stowability, or liability considerations will be identified with a unique symbol and do not reference the standard 13 sub-density scale. Docket 2025-1, containing all proposed changes, will be released for public review on January 30, 2025. At that time, the NMFTA will begin accepting feedback on the proposed changes. The FCDC will hold a public meeting on March 3, 2025. Approved changes will become effective on July 19, 2025.